I met a gypsy.
The one thing to talk about as well, I reckon, that people probably don't know when it comes to riding is, I think a lot of people mostly think that it's mostly physical, or it's like a physical fitness that you've got to have to like do your 30-minute plus 2 motos. But there was a point last year where I actually started doing motos. I got like the bar pad timer, and I was just like, went right. I was like, I'm just going to do, I started just doing 20-minute motos. And then I started doing 20-minute motos decently. And then I was like, oh, I'll try and do a 30. And it's not physically harder than a 20. It's mentally way harder than a 20, just to keep your mind, like your mind focused and not wandering, and like keep your mind on the job and trying to get into like that kind of flow state. And I was listening to this podcast with George St. Pierre, the UFC guy. And he was saying that he had this coach that would time the reactions of different opponents. So like when their hand first moved their opponent to throw a punch, how long it would take the opponent to like react. And he said that he was measured these different guys. So he had like a full database of everyone in the UFC that had these like reaction times. And then he so it ended up being BJ Penn. So he got beat in the first fight by BJ Penn. I think he got maybe I can't remember. The first fight he just like didn't do good against this BJ Penn, right? And then Pierre come back to the to his trainer, was like, man, he's so much faster than me. He's like, I just can't beat this dude on speed. It was like he just saw every single punch that I threw coming. So then, old mate went back, studied the tape, found out he just has this like crazy reaction time compared to George. So then for the second fight, what he did was he threw heaps of like feints, so like fake punches to make him react. Yeah. And he basically said that he wanted to overload his nervous system, because it's your nervous system is like the thing that's
that way.
And it slowed him down. Yeah. And then he said that then they went back and they broke the second fight down where he won. And he ended up, he was through all these feints, and you could just see he got slower and slower and slower through the fight. And it made me think about motocross, but then it made me think about it in a different way after I started doing those longer rides. Because I was like, what's happening is your nervous system is just getting overloaded, especially when you're trying to go fast and you've got stuff that's coming at you and the track's getting rougher and you're trying to pick lines, and there's so much data that is being processed by your brain that it just takes like a lot to actually like stay focused. And I don't know that I just think people talk more about the physical side of it than the mental side of just getting through those long days riding.
Yeah, like 100%. Like I agree with that for sure. It's like, I don't know, even on a level of practice compared to race, it's completely different, because like, say when you go practice, I feel like your mind, you want to get through the moto, but like at a constant level, you're pushing enough to be like consistent on the lap times. You want to be smooth. You're not over pushing things. So, I mean, that's like mentally tough to be like, all right, 30 minutes the same every lap, 30 minutes just the same. But then you go to the race, you don't have a choice to go harder for longer, if you know what I mean. But then you got to focus on like what some other guy's doing. Is he going to come up the inside or go around the outside? Like you got to focus about people behind you, sometimes people in front of you, to try and make the pass, but you don't have a choice. So I feel like when you're racing, it's almost easier to focus like that, because you're like, you have to do it. Where like, say when you are at the practice track, you're not like worried about, oh, this guy's going to pass me. Yeah, maybe someone is faster than you at practice track or whatever, but you just slow down to let them pass or whatever, or they let you pass. Like you don't have to think about like the battle situation at the practice track. You don't have to put all your focus on trying to get the best start possible. Like there's a lot of different factors to, I think, the focus point of view compared like from practice to race. And it's almost like, I try to duplicate as much as I can the practice to the race, but at the same time, it's so fucking difficult to do that because it's completely different situation that you're in. You know what I mean? Like, you go to the practice track, you practice starts, but there's not 30 other guys next to you that are also like revving the bike at the same time. You can also do it with 2 other guys, 3 other guys, but it's just generally not the same feeling because it's completely different. Like, you don't have 30 different bikes revving, so you can actually hear your own bike rev. You don't have the feeling that like if you get a shit jump, someone's going to chop you straight away. There's like so many different things you have to think about, like, because you can go to the practice track, do like 30 good starts, and you're like, fuck, I'm ripping starts today. But then you go to the race, you make one slight mistake off the gate, or as soon as you hit the dirt and there's someone else's bars in front of you, or they're leaning on your side, so they like cut you off. You can't do anything but shut the gas a little bit, and then you're like way behind. So like, I feel like in that side of things, it's like quite tough to duplicate. But like you say, like I agree 100% with what you're saying. Is like the focusing is also a point where I think people would look past. Even I think riders and trainers and stuff like that now would also look past that, because it's not something that's like thought about often. You know what I mean? It's like you should be expected to just fucking focus the whole time and do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe, yes, not so many people think about that, but at the same time, it's like 100%. It's a really important thing to be able to hold your focus for that long. And even like, say like the pressure of the last few laps of not, I feel like you get all the way through the race and then the last 2 laps, you're like, fuck, don't make a mistake, because you will lose a spot or you lose time. And depending on how close the guy is, you think so much about the end result when the race isn't even finished yet, because you're like, fuck, if I make a mistake, he's like right on me, or if I need to do super laps to be able to pull a gap on him and be comfortable to finish the race like in front of this guy. And to be honest, I feel like for us, it's a little bit, like I hate to be going back and forth between like us and like MotoGP and F1, but like they also, it'd be more difficult for them because the time is so much less. Like there's not so many factors that can like fuck up their lap as much as us. Like if you don't hit a jump, maybe you lose 2 seconds, you fuck up a rut, you go out the track or something. Like they're more on the limit because they have to be more precise to not lose 100th of a second, because the guy's like fucking 200th behind them, you know? So you can go from like being second in the race to 5th because you fuck up one turn on MotoGP, you know? Where like in motocross, you can afford to make a mistake sometimes. Obviously, it's the same sometimes if there's a group of people that are like fucking within 5 seconds, 5 people. But it's very rare that that's like happening, unless like, because there's normally like someone will get start, pull a lead, like a little bit. It's a little bit more spread out. So like, I feel like you have more time to think about that sort of shit. And like, in the end of the day, I think that's also losing focus, is being able to think about that shit while you're actually riding. Where if you're fully focused until the last lap, you wouldn't think about anything like that. So it's it's quite a hard one to say.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.